It's sometimes very common to feel fragmented within ourselves. Myself, I had spent many, many years in my early life, I've mentioned it many times before as well, feeling almost as if a tuning fork had been hit and a reverberation had been sent throughout my entire being, where I felt that I wasn't necessarily in my core, I wasn't necessarily in alignment, but I didn't even know what that truly meant. And I feel that it can happen very easily where we may lose the association or lose the connection with our core self of who we are and our soul. And going through a lot of life difficulties can bring up a lot of trauma, can also fragment one's being, feeling almost shattered within self. So how do we return to wholeness? How do we return into our core, into our center, and in alignment with our soul self, our true self? Now, your authentic self, your true self is connected with the essence of who you are on a soul, spiritual, fundamental level, because you are a soul being. We are all soul beings. We are going to eventually leave this form and move into the connection with Source, which we are all part of. And this journey here on earth is an experience. It's an experience of many different dimensions. And so we do have to experience these difficulties. We have to go through some of these trials and tribulations of life. But in order for us to perhaps look within and understand ourselves more through those life difficulties, and the more effort and the more, I would say, focus that we could dedicate towards ourselves, towards our inner selves, the more aligned we will be and the more whole and connected we will be. And what can happen during moments of fragmentation is we can lose sight of that. We can lose the feeling, the sensation, the realization of who we truly are and our connection with our core self. We may find ourselves shattered. We may find ourselves out of alignment. We may question who we truly are or what we're even meant to do. And that's completely normal. It happens to a lot of us, and it's very difficult to navigate. So how do we get through this? How do we get through moments of fragmentation when we feel that things have become shattered, or we may feel that we've lost alignment with who we truly are? Well, first of all, I feel simplicity is very important. Now, this is a Buddhist philosophy, a Buddhist teaching of returning to simplicity, trying to connect with one thing. And sometimes starting maybe healing or transformation or inner discovery can be very daunting because there are so many ways to approach this. There are so many, just like life itself, it can be very distracting. Even the spiritual practice can become very overwhelming. Right? And we also have to remember that we are in the practical world. We do have the elements of the 4 quadrants that I talk about often: the earth aspect, our physical self, our mental self, our mindset, our psychology, our emotional self, our heart, our intuition, our senses, and our spiritual self, the energetics aspect. Right? And so there is a lot of, I feel, introspection that can be had when addressing those 4 aspects of ourselves, but also the alignment within. And yes, it can be overwhelming because there are a lot of dimensions to each one of these 4 quadrants altogether. I mean, there are so many layers and dimensions, and then even when approaching the unconscious and the conscious self. So of course it can feel very overwhelming and daunting, but I want to suggest to start simple. Finding simplicity, focus on one thing. If you are finding yourself overwhelmed, if you are finding yourself lost in worry and fear and doubt and confusion and uncertain of maybe even what direction to take or the next step to take, start simple. Narrow it in and drop into the heart, drop into your intuition. Try to get out of the mind as much as possible. We have an incredible time right now to remove ourselves from the dominant functioning of our rational mind, our overthinking and ruminating, and dropping a little bit more into our heart, connecting with our heart and our senses and tuning in. And it's a whole other different exercise. I've talked about it many times before. It's almost letting go of what has felt familiar, which is coming from our rational thinking, is coming from our rational thought, having knowing and certainty and clarity with life. But unfortunately, we cannot arrive to conclusions based only on that. We have our senses that are equally important. So I do suggest, if this is resonating with you and you're finding yourself feeling maybe fragmented or not in your center, or maybe even pulled in many different directions, right? We have a very distracted society. There are so many options. And of course, I should mention that if we have come from very unpredictable family environments from our past, we can have that imprinting embedded deep within our unconscious and within our nervous system that can pull ourselves away from feeling in our center, from connecting with our center. So step one is going to be connect with your center, simplify. Even though it may feel very difficult, because our mind, we become very habitual. We become very used to operating in certain ways. We become used to feeling scattered and fragmented. It becomes part of our way of functioning. When we want to move towards simplicity and towards centeredness, it takes a lot of concentration and dedication to find that within ourselves. So removing the clutter, the mental clutter, the distractions, the confusion, and going right into the center of what am I maybe afraid of? What am I maybe afraid of that's pulling me into many different directions? Is there a fear? Is there a worry? Is there stress? Is there something that is pulling my attention away constantly? And how can I let that go? Let it go and find your center. Return to something very simple within yourself, one thing. Is it a feeling? Is it a thought? And in your day-to-day practice, write a little tiny list of 1 or 2 things that you want to get done. That's it. Just 1 or 2 things, and be okay with that. Maybe 3 things, but keep it simple and very focused. And when you accomplish those things, give yourself some kind of celebration or reward or peace within yourself. I got those things done. I did a good job and I'm focused. And then focus your attention more and more and more onto what feels right. Use your feelings as your guidance system. This is about breaking a pattern and breaking a habit that is going to take a lot of effort and some focus, but it can be done. And it will help you return to greater alignment and stillness within self. We live in a very overwhelming society with social media everywhere. Social media does alter our brain. It does create a lot of distraction within our life, within ourselves. I am a bit guilty for that myself, and I can tell when I am being pulled in many different directions. But I've had to do a lot of work on myself because I was naturally very distracted. I had ADHD. I was very distracted. I had hypersensitivity. I had a high stress. I would get panic attacks. I would have very high stress, high anxiety often. But the root cause comes from some kind of experience or behavioral imprinting within the unconscious, within the central nervous system, therefore also affecting the wiring of the brain, of the mental patterns. And so this exercise is going to help you break those patterns, but it does require some dedication. It does require a bit of daily discipline, but no much more than brushing teeth or going out for a walk or eating well. Incorporate this into your ritual or into your daily practice where you can find stillness within. Focus on one thing. Focus on one thing and give it your attention and do it well and enjoy it and find pleasure in it. And then move on to the next thing, and bite-sized chunks, step by step. Just work through what you need to get done in one day. Try not to get overwhelmed by the next day. Everything that requires patience and peace and stillness is in the very present moment. By dialing into that one thing in the present moment, you're going to change your focus from external or stress or fragmentation into something very simple and very attuned with the present moment. And then you can bring that awareness within yourself, into the mind, into the emotions, into the senses, into your body. And slow everything down and just find peace within that present moment, right within that stillness, the moment in time. And try to keep that, try to sustain that as long as possible throughout your day. And as soon as you find yourself drifting or being pulled off into other stress or anxiety or worry or doubt, let it go. It's like a muscle. It's a pattern. that can be broken, that can be altered, of course, everything can be. But it does require some focus and dedication and effort to change that pattern. Our lives, I feel, are meant to be simple, but our minds complicate our lives a lot. Returning to simplicity will allow for greater focus, will allow you to tune in with the body and tune in with your center, and will invite peace and calm and stillness into your life. It will also allow you maybe to heal your heart, heal the body, let go of the mind, and connect with something so simple and pure and enjoyable in the present moment. Letting go of the external pressures, the expectations, the fears, the worries, the doubt, letting everything go and finding that stillness within the present moment. And your mind may want to waver, your mind may want to return to its previous functioning, but try to resist it and incorporate a bit more trust with the feeling of presence and the connection with your center. You may even return your gaze inward in maybe a meditative state to find your center within, what that means for you and how that feels within yourself. Letting go of the mental chatter, the stress, the responsibility, and invite more trust into yourself within your day-to-day, within what you are working on, within life, and see what that feels like. You may even want to try to incorporate some true beliefs into your system, into your body, into your cells, into the core of yourself. I am safe. Everything is working out just fine. Maybe even finding stillness in being outside or in your space. Dropping into a state of calmness and the feeling that everything is okay. Everything is working out as it's meant to work out. And again, trying to find that center within self. And if it's really difficult, listen to some nice soothing music, meditate, maybe even shake it out or go for a walk, move the body a little bit, but focus on one thing. Focus on maybe a view outside of your window or something really nice and soothing or calming within your space. And incorporate the true beliefs of I am okay and everything is working out just fine. I am at peace. I am safe. And feel that within your system. Feel that within your cells, within your body, within your energetic self. Let it resonate deeply. And connect with that feeling, that deep inner knowing and that belief. And by connecting with that feeling and that belief and that inner knowing, you will override the false beliefs of life is too overwhelming, life is confusing and chaotic. We can change our entire chemistry, our entire functioning, starting from within. So I hope this video offered you some guidance if you are dealing with some stress, anxiety, fragmentation, uncertainty, doubt, or overwhelm. Just return to the present moment. Find something beautiful and comforting within the very present moment. And as soon as your mind wants to wander, as soon as there's a bit of stress or anxiety or panic or worry, catch it right away and let it go. And incorporate immediately trust, calmness, security, presence. All right, so I hope this found you when you need it the most, and I'm wishing you all the best at this time and beyond. Take care.